What's up,
Yeah.
brother? It's your boy, Mike Muse. Welcome to the conversation, the Mike Muse Show. I am so excited to be in conversation with you all on this fantastic interview, who I am excited to be back in conversation with. We first got introduced to Mayor Reed in Montgomery, Alabama. And since then, so much has happened. Mayor Reed is now president of the African American Mayor Associations. And for me, that is one of my favorite associations out there because Black mayors matter, but in a way that is so important in terms of resources, understanding culture, understanding community, and understanding how to get the proper resources to the right way and to uplift mobility across the board and across this great nation. So, without further ado, I'm excited to welcome Mayor Reed back. What's up, Mayor?
Hey, always good to be with you, brother. Listen, everything is going pretty well on this end. Well, we got less than 40 days and the big race at the top of the ticket, and we got to make sure we do some other things down ballot as well all around this country so we can help African American mayors in our respective communities from coast to coast. So we're excited, but we know we got a lot of work to do.
That's kind of what I want to talk with you about in the sense of how are you all as mayors preparing for the election? Because now the time period we're in right now is really the GOTV efforts, right? Get out
Yeah.
the vote efforts, as well as ensuring that individuals have understanding of polling places.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, including myself, are taking care of home for sure, making sure that those local races are in a good place and really trying to get the message out to those in our community about what is really at stake in this election. But we're also going to those battleground states that we're seeing, that could decide the election, whether that's in the Midwest, whether it's in the Southwest, or whether that's Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast. We're all trying to go where some of our colleagues may be to help them out, or where there may not be a presence of a Black mayor to go in and talk to, the most loyal constituency of the Democratic Party about why it's going to be so urgent for us to turn out to vote. And, I think that between our social media platforms, word of mouth, and obviously getting on the ground, we're really trying to look at every way possible to talk about the importance of Vice President Kamala Harris becoming the next president, holding on to the majority in the United States Senate, and what that would mean if Hakeem Jeffries is the Speaker of the House. The type of things that we know will help our community better than anyone. We hear it at church, we hear it in the barbershop, we hear it at school, games we're picking up the kids and things along those lines. We hear it in our fraternity and sorority meetings. We hear it in all these spaces, things that have happened. And I tell, communities all across the country that a lot of the work that you've seen came because of the American Rescue Plan Act, which was, President Biden and Vice President Harris really pushing this forward. But more importantly, it came to the cities and states. So a lot of us, even in the Midwest, good friend Justin Bibb and guys up there who are leading those cities in Ohio, were having the same issues with their governor and state legislature that I was having here in Alabama, or Ashok Lumumba and Derek Sims are having over in Mississippi, and all of these places. So we were able to get that local money, the federal money, in the local hands to put it on the ground and make a difference, post COVID. That's how things work, and that's why it's so important to have someone in the White House who understands government, who understands how to get things in the hands of the right people to make the right decisions to really impact our community. So that's been the message we've been trying to share, and we'll continue that over these next few weeks.
You mentioned something I found really interesting about this infrastructure bill, right? There has been lots of conversations in the Biden administration that has really touted the success they've had with the Build Back Better Act and how the infrastructure funding got done. But I do hear from individuals, particularly on the Mike Muse show, not really understanding the connectivity of how those funds got transfers and then exactly how our city is using it. Can you give examples or talk about the connectivity of how the funds were sent, drawn down, and then in what use cases what is it used for?
Oh, yeah, listen, it's been critical for a lot of us as mayors across the country to have that money come directly to our cities and counties where we could really work to get it out into our communities in a very responsible way. The infrastructure bill helped us so much because it was very broad in terms of how mayors could utilize. So certainly you could utilize it for, water infrastructure. You can utilize it for any initiatives that need to be improved for your respective communities. And a lot of mayors did that. But there were also things around high-speed internet. There were also things around making sure that you could invest more into fiber to bring that technology to so many cities and neighborhoods, that even in cities, not rural areas, but even in cities, did not have the connectivity that were needed. But it also gave us the flexibility to put this in community initiatives. That may be anti-violence initiatives. Those may be hospital-based intervention, maybe small business initiatives through grant making. It may have been through things that we're doing to help our public education system, to help with workforce development, also to help those nonprofits that were already in the space doing good work, but needed some additional funds to really help in places where government could not reach. So the infrastructure bill allowed us to do so many things, but then it also allowed us to get into neighborhoods, may have been blighted communities, to tear down homes, to come back with infill development, to make sure that communities were more walkable and sustainable, energy efficient, putting money into some of those programs that would allow people who are suffering from high energy costs to really weatherize their windows, their doors, to really help some of our seniors who needed help with their roofs. Things that, a lot of people may just overlook, but things that are very, very significant. So it really helped the day-to-day American. It really helped the day-to-day entrepreneur and small business person. And then through some of these projects, what were we able to do? We were able to provide jobs because there was work on the ground. And I don't think we can forget that. The Biden's campaign, Biden-Harris initiative for Justice 40, which was essentially tying African-American and other minority businesses into 40% of federal dollars spent. That's significant. Those are things that helped us get to some of those small, mid-sized Black and brown businesses, to elevate them and to say, hey, here's some projects we're going to be doing. Come lay the concrete, come do electrical wiring, come do the HVAC repair, come do the architecture, come do the design work, come do those things that, quite often so many of those companies and those firms never got the opportunity to do. So it was, a multifaceted benefit for us, because one, it helped the community, but it helped our businesses stabilize after COVID, which helped them bring more people on to their, work roles that, allow us to have the lowest unemployment rate in several decades, in particular in the Black community.
What I love that you just talked about is essentially contracting. There's something I found interesting with Vice President Harris's economic plan.
Yeah.
And part of it is allocating a certain amount of money due to tax breaks initiatives for small businesses, having access to venture capital. But what I found really interesting is when she leaned in and discussing ensuring that businesses, small businesses, in particular Black businesses, have access to federal contracting government. I think what a lot of Americans don't realize is how many Americans, particularly white Americans, have been able to get generational wealth, upper middle class and middle class, due to federal contracting. And it really is kind of if kind of basis and processes that are associated with it. Audience, I'm using a neutral example. How it's, I don't want to say it's racism. It's no different than when you think about like HR, for example, right? And we're trying, particularly in the big tech space, we're trying to disrupt that pipeline to ensure that more people of color in the pipeline. It's no different than an HR manager is like, hey, especially if it's a white person, hey, I have a job available, sends an email out. Do you know anyone in your networks? Just by default, by association, people are usually associated based upon race and culture and community. They're sending out to their friends, sending out to their friends. So they're more than likely getting white candidates, right? Just because they don't know any Black organizations or may not have Black friends. It's not racist, right? As it is like an indirect biases, right? And so I think that's why it's important, Mayor Reed, to have Black mayors, and particularly as you're talking now on that local level to get the contract bids, to do the architecture, to do the HVAC, to do the plumbing, to do the electrical wiring. And it's not so much it is about race as it is Black mayors now know Black people, Black associations, Black entities that could now put forward a bid to request a funding where there's a time we wouldn't even have access to that information.
Yeah, Mike, what you just said there, I think is so important for people to understand. This generation of mayors, and again, it goes from coast to coast. Um, doesn't matter the size of the city. When you consider the largest cities in this country have Black mayors, you have more Black mayors now in the South than ever before, and even across the Midwest and the West Coast, we're seeing just a tremendous growth in Black mayors, of all generations. All of us talk about how to build wealth in our community and how can we leverage that from our positions as mayor. We understand who has been traditionally around the table making money in our cities. We also understand that there's a value proposition in making sure that those who benefit from procurement dollars that have not been around the table are given a seat at the table. What that means for our overall economy. People tend to hire people that they know. That is human nature, right? So the data shows that. And so we know that is a fact. So in order for our businesses to scale and grow, they have to be given the opportunity to bring in that revenue to show what they can do. But I want your listeners to understand now there is still hostility to that. When I came in, we set a role to have, we set the benchmark to have, 30% of our procurement dollars going to Black businesses. It was tremendously low. We're now a little bit around 18. We're right around between 18 and 20. So we're on our way there. But I will tell you, I met very vocal resistance to what I was doing just by pushing that notion. And, a lot of mayors do that. And so we understand that's, that kind of comes with the territory. But I think it's important for your listeners to know that's top of mind for us to make sure that those businesses, again, these are people who go to our churches. These are friends of ours, classmates of ours. These are people that we know. And these are people who share, other, associations and affiliations with us. But the main point is that we know they can do the work. And we know that they can do the work, and we see them with the type of opportunity. They're going to hire other people that we know. And what better way to show someone who has not seen a Black civil engineer, who has not seen someone start their own business and to grow it from 1 truck to 3 trucks to 7, to see that that's something that they can do. Well, that has to come with us using our political platforms in order to do that, like so many in previous generations, so certainly notably Maynard Jackson, first Black mayor of Atlanta, doing just that. So that is, something that we talk about quite a bit, and it's something that we really are proud to focus on. So to hear the president talk about it, President Biden, to hear his Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen talk about it over the last 4 years, has been significant. To hear the Department of Commerce talk about it. Now with Vice President Harris running, she is addressing it, has as part of her economic agenda. And those are things that are tremendously different. So when people say, well, what's the difference? Or there's no difference. Well, that's somebody who's, doesn't really want to know. Because there is a distinct difference between this administration and what they've done and what Vice President Harris will do over the next 4 years. And we cannot understate that because it has such a dramatic impact on our cities, on our communities, all across this country. And more importantly, on our economics in the Black community and closing that racial wealth gap and making sure that we have those opportunities to grow and scale our businesses and to provide for others, and to achieve the American dream, and to have that financial independence that everyone else wants and everyone else wants to see for their families as well.
I think often you mentioned Maynard Jackson of Atlanta. I think historically, Mayor Coleman Young of Detroit, right? That gave so much economic power.
Marion Barry in DC.
I was just about to go to I was just about to go to Marion Barry in DC. As controversial as his ending of his term might have been, it was to the fact of why they call it DC Chocolate City and why DC and Black constituencies had so much economic power and political power was because of Marion Barry, who ensured that there was Black mobility through contracting and through city government. There's a person, Mayor Reed, that I think about often, and that's Don Peebles, the big real
Oh
estate
yeah.
developer. Don Peebles was able to get his start in DC because of the bids that he went after for real estate development within DC. But audience, it then allowed Don, who I live in New York City, so I see Don frequently, to now make bids for properties and real estate ventures here in New York City. He would not have been able to do that if he hadn't had the experience and the track record in DC to build the great empire that he has. And so this is what Mayor Reed is talking about, why it's important and why it matters to have mayors of cities that look like its constituencies, to include them into the process and just to make them aware. Just by Mayor Reed, just being Black, a member of the D9, if things are happening, he can bring in the D9 community to help amplify the messaging of when RFPs are going out, right? Like talk to church groups and RFPs are coming out just for the point of awareness. Because Mayor Reed and the audience, sometimes these things are happening and we don't even know that an RFP got submitted, right? Or that it's a posting, right? Or there is no signups for the union for plumbing, right? But the window was you only have an hour to sign up to be enrolled to be part of the apprenticeship program, right? Like we just don't have the amplification.
Yeah, and again, I think that it's important for us to keep that in mind. Let me tell you a quick conversation that I had, and it's one again around the importance of making sure that Black businesses and Black entrepreneurs truly are brought to the table with a mayor, and the point was just how small that percentage was in this city, that I was not in the South. I was just, so surprised at how few Black businesses, were able to get their foot in the door. And their point was, we had to change this. And I told, my administration that. And again, when you have that coming from the federal government, when you have that coming from the White House down, I think it's important for us to recognize that President Biden went in the many areas and spaces and subjects and topics that no president had gone before. And I think that he is not only to be commended, I think he's to be lauded for that. I said this at Democratic National Convention and speaking to a couple of groups there, that I think that his legacy is not fully recognized on race and in terms of his elevation of Black people and the issues that are critical to the community. So before somebody says we're not a monolith, I know that. I'm talking about the majority of the community, all right? So no are white people monolith either. We're talking about the majority. So, when we look at that, I think this economic piece is so important, because it wasn't just the judicial appointments. It wasn't just the policies, yes, but it was, we know who's running cities. We know that you all get bogged down in your conservative legislatures with your conservative governors from Texas, looking at you, Houston and Dallas and all points in between, DeSoto and other places, all the way to Ohio and places like that. Well, that has made a difference, not just in terms of political rhetoric, but it's made a difference economically. And I think it's important to look at, the data in terms of where Black household incomes were when President Biden came in and where they are right now. And they've risen, they've increased. And Vice President Harris being right there over these last 3.5, almost 4 years now, it's significant, because those are the type of policies we want to see improve. When you have someone who's been from a working middle class family, as both of them have been, they understand those challenges. When you have someone who understands the power and importance of policy, not just political theater, I think it's important, not just political theater, but the importance of policy. Those things make a difference because they don't just happen. Now, I can tell you that, having worked at the state level here in Alabama, I can tell you that working at the county level and now at the city level, those things have to be made to happen. And they do tremendously impact what our banks are doing, what homes you're allowed to buy, or what loans you can get, all of those things. And that has a direct impact on our ability to build wealth, our ability to close these gaps that we're seeing economically. And I think it has the ability to provide what I believe will be a springboard to more progress in an accelerated fashion over these next 4 years with a President Kamala Harris.
Mayor Reed, you see me smiling, audience, when you go and watch this back on YouTube. You'll see me smiling. It's because there's something about the economics and economic policies that I've been really happy about. And that is something, Mayor Reed, that you guys have supported recently when the Biden administration decided to give $2 billion in funding to Black farmers.
Yeah.
I have written tons of articles on Black farmers, what has happened. I've written a lot about the agriculture department and how white people have been the most beneficiary of entitlements through agriculture. There's this big misnomer that Black people are the majority recipients of entitlements. White people get entitlements through the Department of Agriculture. It goes so far, audience, where government has given white families money to restart their farms, right? And sometimes we think about farming just maybe being one cow and one pig, but farming is big business, right?
Absolutely.
And farming is how so many white Americans have gotten generational wealth, right? And this, again, this isn't about race, but this is to make sure things are equitable and also too restorative of all the Black farmland that has been taken. I think that's why it's so important that I was writing about the importance of voting for president, because they had the ability to appoint secretaries of these agencies. It's no different than Secretary Deb Haaland, the first Native American to be Secretary of Interior, which is so huge because Secretary of Interior controls tribal lands, and not control, they're independent, but helps to oversee and facilitate tribal lands. And so talk to me, Mayor Reed, about the importance of that allocation of that $2 billion that went to Black farmers.
Well, one, it was long overdue. It had been fought for by so many people from the Congressional Black Caucus, all the way down to a lot of our state legislators, NBCSL, and so many Black organizations, including the civil rights organizations. Again, I think people don't always know the work because we don't follow it closely enough. And then we say, well, they aren't doing anything. Well, the question is, well, one, what are you doing? And two, how do you know? So, I think those are things we don't always keep in mind. We just kind of want to write someone off. I mean, it takes time. Again, these things have to be made to happen. So for the $2 billion to come through this administration, again, I think, again, is a sign of, their proximity to longstanding problems in the Black community and their courage and willingness to move forward in an intentional way to address them. And I know I've heard someone say, well, it should have been more money for those farmers. And they are probably right. But I don't think you can just dismiss the settlement, that was, again, had been tied up for so many years to these farmers. And I believe what, we've also seen out of that bill is kind of how to correct that action in the U.S. Department of Agriculture and how to move forward to bring more African Americans back into the ag space where people like my grandfather were in Perry County, Alabama. So, when we think about that, we know there's opportunities. We know there's tremendous technological advances that have been made that's making farming a lot different, making it, profitable as well for those that can do it. And so it's something for us to consider, even as we deal, kind of split screen with AI and technology, and obviously those advancements that are being made there, and trying to make sure we have our foot in the door. It's just as important, I think, for us to understand where the supply chain is, how it really works, and to make sure that we have people in those spaces investing and partnering, with us with a perspective that maybe some others don't have.
Yeah, I think that's so important, which is why I've been advocating for a presidential appointment to appoint a Black Secretary of Agriculture. Often get HUD, which is great, but I'm still.
Marcia Fudge was real interested in that 4 years ago, right?
That's what she was gunning for, right? And she's been a guest on this show too as well. But I was really gunning for Black to be Department of Agriculture. We haven't had that yet. And whoever gets the wins in November, I'm going to write another article advocating for a Black person to be appointed to the Department of Agriculture. I think that's just so critical.
Yeah.
And also, too, Mary, I think it's restorative, right?
Yeah.
And, we talk about reparations, breaking mules, however you want to say it. But I just think there's something so impactful to have someone in that seat who understands the history and what has happened to so many Black farmers over the centuries whose land has just been taken away from them without any restorative justice that is being done. $2 billion is great. We want more, but it's a good start to begin that process. Mayor, I can talk to you all day, but I just want to just end it on a local level because I really talk about how important local officials are.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know why it's important, like to have a mayor, but in particular, Mayor, if you can talk to me a little bit about, because I get so many calls about education and so many parents really caring about their children's education. And I always talk to them about the importance of voting, for your school board of education.
Oh man, who you telling?
And if you can
Timely.
talk to and educate my audience, if you can give a little civics 101 on the symbiotic relationship that the school board of education has with the mayor's office and then has with the city council in order to help impact change on the local level for parents, the children that are in the K through 12 public school systems.
Yeah, listen, let me say, let me give a disclaimer that we're having our own challenges with our school board right now here in Montgomery, Alabama. So we're going through it as we speak. And I can't think of a more important topic than public education and the challenges that it's facing, right now. I think it's very important for us to really think about school boards in a way that we don't often give the attention to, and when you're setting educational policy and you're working with a superintendent, who you put on those school boards is so very important because the school system is going to dictate not just your current situation, it's going to dictate your future viability as a community. The type of graduates, are you getting them ready for the current or for the future workplace that awaits them? Are they proficient in reading? Are they proficient in math? Are they really getting the nurturing that they need, even for mental health and character building that is needed? And public schools have always been a challenge, but certainly right now we're seeing, more of that. So it takes, above average people being on the school boards, and it truly is a sacrifice. And I think it's one that, along with, economic development, really, dictate how far a city can go, or how far, in most cases, a region can go. That major economic hub in that space is going to be really judged a lot on, the quality of the graduates, the quality of education, the quality of services that you have. And the school board is going to have more to do with that than anybody. In our case, our school board is elected separately. In some, communities that those positions are appointed. But I would say, regardless of whether they're elected or appointed, you want, sound, pragmatic, rational people on the boards who not only can work with your superintendent, but can work with other stakeholders, whether it's the business community, your county commission, or your state representatives, because so much of the funding is going to come from the state level. In a lot of jurisdictions, the county is a major funder in that, and some it is county and city. So you got to have a school board that really gets the big picture, that understands what their roles and responsibilities are and are not, and that understand that, their job is to, really make sure that the school system is moving in a positive direction, not getting involved in the, personalities or the politics of it, but are we doing the best we can by the students, by the staff, by the teachers and parents that are depending on us? And then are we working together with various stakeholders that we need for partnerships and collaborations?
Mm-hmm.
Those things are just urgently important in so many of our communities. And I would say that we don't have enough people, young people, or even middle-aged or elders who are really as involved in that as we should. And when you consider, again, where we are with public education in this country, I can't think of really a much more important area for one to consider serving in than their school board. In particular, if public education is of interest to you, and in particular, if you understand the connection to the viability of your community at large, that's a tremendous place to be a part of. Comes with a lot of responsibility, comes with a lot of work, but it is redemptive in having the right people in the right place when it comes to educating our future.
I love the key word that you said, Mary Reed, and that was above average people. Um, that was so eloquently said, and that says so much because I think the school board of education is almost like an afterthought, right?
Yep.
Sometimes we get our best and brightest who run for mayor, who run for city council, but often we don't often get the best of the best running for our school board of education, and that needs to change. And I'm gonna keep using your phrase. I'll give you attributions, but we need above average people. That says a lot. Mayor Reed, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to hold you anymore. I know you're a busy man, but it's
Thank you.
enjoy talking to you. Good conversations to be had, man. You got to come back on the Mike Me Show again.
Hey, listen, I was just about to say, let's do it again real soon. I really enjoyed it. Always good catching up with you, brother.